Joining me now, retired four-star General Jack Keane. General, do you sense that the war in Ukraine is coming to an end gradually?
Well, I think we're beginning a process that could possibly bring it to an end. And the most critical thing took place last Wednesday, and that's when President Trump called President Putin. After all, Putin has been avoiding negotiations and saying he wasn't coming to the negotiating table and because he was winning this war and there's no need for negotiations. Well, that all changed on Wednesday when President Trump got an affirmation from Putin that he is willing to negotiate. Now we have the president's national security team arriving in Saudi Arabia to meet with the Russians to see if there's really substance behind Putin's claim that he's willing to negotiate. We know for a fact that the Russians are manipulators of negotiations. The Minsk II agreement made in 2014, they manipulated that to their own favor. This team is very versed on how Russia manipulates negotiations. So we're going to see and find out if there's substance behind Putin's words, yes, that he wants to negotiate. That's what the meeting is about. It's the beginning of the process, Stuart. This is complicated. It will take some time. This is not going to end in the next days or next couple of weeks. But I think we're beginning this process, and thankful for President Trump for starting this process. It wouldn't be happening if he wasn't there.
What do you make of the British offer to send peacekeeping troops, British troops, peacekeepers into Ukraine? What do you make of that?
Oh, absolutely the right thing. A year ago, the French president was saying the same thing. This is the challenge we've had with the Europeans. They have paid a fair amount of money to help Ukraine, but their militaries have been weak. They're not as well trained. Their capabilities are not what they should be. The last 30-plus years, they've been building social democratic welfare states at the expense of their defense budgets. They've raised their defense budgets 23 out of 32 to 2% of GDP. Now they're thinking about raising it to 3.5 to 3.7 based on President Trump asking them to do more. This is a step in the right direction. And what the UK Prime Minister is saying is absolutely the right thing. We need to hear from Europe. What are their ideas? How do they help to guarantee the future security of Ukraine? Because we know, Stuart, even if there is a peace agreement, Putin can wait out the Trump administration and then attack after the Trump administration is over. That's the reality. That's where Putin is. They have to have deterrence there. They have to have something that's going to impose cost on Putin. So, yes, there's so much that we can do to strengthen Ukraine's hand. Build an air force around the F-16. Put the weapons in there that they need. NATO brigades train with them. UK put forces in there. France put forces in there. Anybody can make a list. But actually coming forward and taking action is what is needed.
The president says Iran will never be allowed to get a nuclear weapon. Do you sense that we're gearing up towards an Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear facilities? They do, after all, have these bunker-busting bombs. You think that's in the offing?
I think there's actually two options in the offing. One is the principle, as you just stated. President Trump and Netanyahu are not going to permit Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and there's evidence that they have committed to do just that. In other words, acquire a nuclear weapon. Obviously, they have lost their proxies, Hamas significantly, Hezbollah as well. They've lost their strategic platform, Syria, and they're defenseless against air attack. So what's left for them? A nuclear weapon to guarantee the preservation of the regime. That's where they are. Two options on the table. President Trump prefers the first one. Let's try this. And that is coercive diplomacy, dismantle your nuclear weapon. We cut a deal with them to do that, with a date certain, international inspectors, to include the United States, to verify. If that doesn't work, then a U.S.-supported Israeli strike to take down their nuclear enterprise. Netanyahu will not disagree with the president on the first option, but I think he prefers the second option because he knows that Iran's history is delay, cheat, cheat, cheat. And a year from now, we could be in the same place that we're at now. And nobody wants that. But those are the two options, Stuart. Yeah. And there's absolute commitment that Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. That level of commitment has much more teeth in it than it ever has in the past.
General, don't be a stranger to us, please. You know what you're talking about. Come back and see us real soon on this, because I think it's a big deal. General Jack Keane. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.